Introduce the high-end hotel, the wild nightlife clientele, and the routine chaos of working late shifts. But make it clear, this story is different. A suave guy and his buddies try to manipulate the front desk after humiliating his girlfriend in public, not realizing the woman they mocked holds the real power. Tease the sweet, classy revenge that unfolds with help from the hotel staff.
End with,
You see it all: power plays, drunken escapades, spontaneous hookups, even the occasional celebrity meltdown. But the late night shifts? That's where the real stories live. The buzz of the city outside faded as the evening wore on, replaced by the hum of elevator doors, the click of heels on marble, and the occasional buzz of the lobby doors as guests returned from dinner, bars, or whatever late-night indulgence they'd found. When the world sleeps, the masks come off, and people show you exactly who they are. In walked a group of young guys, well-dressed, clearly moneyed up, and obviously riding the high of a night on the town. There was this chick at the bar tonight. Total rondo. Came up to me and just wouldn't stop hitting on me. Like, aggressive, you know?
He laughed again, loud enough for his friends to hear.
They were still lingering by the doors, glancing over and snickering to each other like high schoolers. His buddies behind him were losing it, covering their mouths, trying not to laugh too loud. One of them even muttered, "Dude, savage," like it was the line of the night. Designer shoes, open collars, that work hard, play harder Wall Street energy. But she kept pushing. We finally left, and I realized I didn't have my room key. I think she stole it. Just wanted to let you know, in case she shows up. Don't let her in, okay? The kind of guys who think the world was built for them. What made my stomach twist was how rehearsed it sounded. I pulled up his reservation, deactivated the keys, issued him a new set after checking his ID, and even offered to move him to a different room if he felt unsafe. That got a new round of chuckles from the peanut gallery. You'll know her when you see her. Like he'd been practicing the delivery, waiting for the punchline. And then there was the way he described her without prompting, and in excruciating detail. He thought he could treat her like trash, and still sleep like a king. But he had no idea she was about to flip the script. Working the front desk at a luxury hotel in the heart of downtown is like being the bouncer at a velvet-roped circus. I had been working this gig for a few years, rotating mostly between the second and third shifts. By then, I had seen just about every kind of scandal unfold in the lobby. It was a place where secrets clung to the walls like wallpaper. Infidelity, shady business deals, lovers' quarrels turning into public scenes. It was just another Tuesday, as far as I was concerned. I didn't know what the game was, but I knew one thing for sure. They were hiding something. And I had a feeling whatever it was going to walk through those doors real soon. You could tell they'd been drinking, but they weren't stumbling or slurring. One of them peeled off from the group and sauntered up to the front desk, all confidence and charm, like he'd done this 100 times before. That night started out like most others. I was halfway through my shift, the lull between chaos, sipping cheap lobby coffee, when the automatic doors slid open with a hiss. They swaggered in, laughing loudly among themselves, just buzzed enough to be loose but not sloppy. He leaned on the counter, gave me a lopsided grin, and launched into a story that didn't sit right from the jump. "So listen," he started, still chuckling under his breath. "I told her no, like, a bunch of times," he continued. It wasn't the story that bothered me. These kinds of tailies weren't exactly rare in a downtown hotel. Blonde, maybe 5'6", curvy, wearing this tight red dress with heels looked kinda cheap, honestly. Long hair, big curls. He smirked the whole way through, like the whole situation was some inside joke. I nodded, kept my face neutral, and went through the motions. "Nah, we're good," he said, pocketing the keys. "She's not that crazy." They all walked off, still laughing, heading toward the elevators like they'd just pulled off some harmless prank. But as I watched them disappear down the hallway, something in my gut twisted. I was just about to clock out when it happened. Bag over my shoulder, cash drawer counted, the night shift relief already in place behind the desk. The hum of the hotel had quieted to its usual late-night rhythm, and I was ready to disappear into the night without a second thought until I caught movement out of the corner of my eye. The front doors buzzed and slid open. There she was. It was almost cinematic, the way she rushed in like she knew exactly where she was going. No hesitation, no confusion. Just bare feet slapping against marble, heels gripped tight in one hand, and eyes locked on the hallway that led to the elevators. She didn't look dangerous. She looked devastated. Her makeup was smudged, her eyes red, and her expression there was no swagger, no fire. Just heartbreak. She looked like a woman who'd been shattered and left to piece herself back together in public. And she looked exactly like he described her. I froze in my tracks. The picture he painted earlier wasn't just accurate, it was disturbingly precise. Same build, same long blonde curls, same tight red dress clinging to her like it had been custom-made for her curves. But this wasn't the woman he had described as a threat. There it was. Her name, plain as day, listed under his reservation. But what were the odds? Not just some girl he picked up at a bar, the way he had spun the story so effortlessly. And now, this? Not a random stranger harassing him. This was someone he knew, someone he trusted enough to give full access to his room. I wasn't ready to let this slide just yet. Something felt deeply wrong, and the longer I stood there, the more uneasy I became. And if she's on the reservation, why lie? I turned to my coworker, who had just buzzed her in, confusion written all over my face. What started as a mildly suspicious guest interaction had suddenly flipped into something much darker, more personal. She just walked straight in? I asked, not by a long shot. I followed protocol, sure, but still I felt complicit. Yeah, he said, tilting his head at the monitor. She tried her key, but it didn't work. Hi, sir, I just wanted to follow up about earlier. A woman matching the description you gave came in. Not the nervous kind, this was bold, unfiltered mockery. I could hear the rest of his friends in the background, hooting and cackling like they were at a frat house comedy roast. She was listed on the reservation and provided the correct room number and last name, so we allowed her access to the building. So I asked for the room number and last name. She gave both without blinking. I pulled it up, and look, she's listed. Secondary guest, full access. He gave her permission at check-in. I stepped behind the desk and looked at the screen myself. Take her off the room. She's banned now. No more keys. No access. Don't worry about the other details. I couldn't shake the image of her rushing through the lobby, desperate, barefoot, and broken. Whatever had happened between her and that smug jerk upstairs, it was clear this wasn't just a messy breakup. And who supposedly took your room key was actually the same person you checked in with hours ago and gave full access to. Something was off, and I needed answers. He got back on the phone. Yeah, don't overthink it. She's not allowed back in. That's all you need to know. Now I was the one blinking. Wait, this is the same woman he told us about, right? My coworker asked, eyebrows rising. The way he tossed her aside like she was a disposable guest. The way his friends fed off his energy like piranhas. It all clicked. He wanted her locked out, helpless, watching from the sidelines as he laughed it up upstairs, drunk on ego and cheap whiskey. I wasn't sure. I wanted to believe it wasn't. That maybe there were two blonde women in red dresses wandering the city barefoot. He chuckled nervously. No need for the cops. She'd figure it out. I replayed the conversation with him in my head, his mocking tone, the creepy level of detail, the smirks from his friends. She fits the description too well, I said, slowly. We exchanged a long glance. The mood shifted. And she's unable to retrieve her belongings. We are obligated to contact the authorities to help her reclaim her property. Would you like us to do that now? This was emotional warfare, and that poor girl had walked right into the lion's den, thinking she was spending a romantic weekend with her boyfriend. I told my coworker to hold off on doing anything else. Maybe it was the fact that I helped enable it deactivating her keys without question, assuming the guy's version of events was the full truth. I turned toward the hallway, watching the elevator numbers rise. She was already on her way up. My gut twisted again. If this was what I thought it was, some cruel, manipulative game between a man and a woman who clearly trusted him, it wasn't over yet. And I knew I wasn't going anywhere just yet. The moment the elevator doors slid shut behind her, my instinct kicked into overdrive. I picked up the phone and dialed the room number tied to the reservation.
He answered on the second ring, voice light and carefree like nothing was wrong in the world. Front desk, I said calmly. There was a pause.
Then came laughter. "Oh, that's right," he said through a laugh. "I forgot she was on the room. That's hilarious." My stomach dropped. "Would you like us to remove her name now then?" I asked, my tone professional but clipped. "Yeah, sweetheart," he said, smug and dismissive. I clenched my jaw. "Just to clarify, sir." "The woman you mentioned earlier, the one you claimed you didn't know." There was a beat of silence. Then he laughed even harder. Guys, I confused the poor girl," he said, clearly relaying the conversation to the peanut gallery in the background. I stared at the monitor, at the digital record that clearly showed her name, her access. This wasn't some misunderstanding. This wasn't just a bad night. This was planned, calculated, cruel. He lured her out here, made her pay for everything, and then humiliated her in front of his friends for sport. I took a slow breath and forced my voice into a professional register. "Understood, sir. Just so you're aware, if she's not allowed access to the room anymore." There was a shift in his tone, a pause like he hadn't expected that angle. Whoa, that's a little extreme, don't you think?" I ended the call right there. "No more games." I turned to my coworker who had been listening in from his spot behind the desk, wide-eyed. "I'm staying," I said flatly. He nodded without hesitation. "I got your back." We didn't know what was coming next, but one thing was clear. This wasn't just a bad breakup. Well, not on our watch. If that man thought he could treat her like trash in our hotel and get away with it, he just messed with the wrong front desk. She came back down not long after. The elevator doors slid open and there she was, barefoot, defeated, and trembling, clutching her phone like a lifeline. Her cheeks were soaked with tears, her breath came in short, ragged bursts, and she barely glanced in our direction as she made a beeline for the nearest lobby chair and collapsed into it. The phone was already at her ear. She was supposed to meet his old college buddies, see his world, and celebrate a new phase of their relationship. She'd paid for the hotel, fronted all the costs, and genuinely believed this trip was a turning point for them. We didn't mean to eavesdrop. But when someone breaks like that in front of you, sobbing into a phone call, it's hard not to listen. Especially when the raw emotion in her voice made your own chest tighten. She stepped away to use the restroom, and when she came back, she found him hitting on another woman, not subtly, not sneakily, openly, right there in front of everyone. His friends were egging him on, and from what she said, there had even been a bet involved. A dare. She was on the line with her mom, maybe her sister too. 2 miles across the city, in heels that were never meant for anything more than sitting pretty. Eventually, she gave up and carried them, navigating cracked sidewalks and sketchy streets barefoot. Her feet were visibly dirty and swollen. Her words spilled out in gasps and half-sentences, but the story took shape fast. "If there's anything we can do to help, please tell us." Apparently, her boyfriend had invited her to this city for a special week, but things went wrong almost immediately. If she wanted to speak to security, or if maybe her family could book her another room so she didn't have to go back up there. "But my ID, my phone charger, everything's in the room." They were all at a bar earlier that night. Her, him, and his boys laughing, drinking, settling into the vibe. She explained more how the guy hadn't had a job in over a year. How she'd been covering for him, paying the bills, the food, the flights. His parents had cut him off, and since then he'd latched onto her like a barnacle. She confronted him, of course angry, shocked, embarrassed. And that's when everything unraveled. His friends joined in, laughing, jeering, treating her like she was some joke. But since he's been around his old friends, he's been different. He broke up with her on the spot like it was entertainment, like it was all part of the night's festivities. He turned on her. Just walked out, got in an Uber, and left her there. No cash. No ID, no ride, nothing. Called her names. Mocked her in front of the whole bar. Told her she was nothing without him. Then they left. "I didn't even bring my purse," she sobbed into the phone. "It was in the room. My wallet. My room key. Everything. He didn't even offer. I booked the whole trip." She didn't call an Uber. She didn't ask for help. She just walked. I couldn't stand it any longer. I grabbed a bottle of water from the snack area and walked over, crouching slightly so I wasn't towering over her.
"Here," I said gently, offering the water. "I'm really sorry you're going through this."
I couldn't help overhearing. She looked up, eyes puffy and bloodshot. She accepted the water with a trembling hand, thanked me in a whisper, and looked like she was barely holding herself together. I sat across from her and asked if she needed us to call the police. If she needed help getting her belongings. I just want to go home, she said softly. We talked a little longer, my coworker joining us from the desk to show his support. I thought he loved me, she said. Back home, he's sweet, he cooks, he's affectionate. I remember asking her gently, just to clarify, the room you're staying in whose card is on file? She blinked at me, confused. Mine. I froze. So, you're paying for the room? Yeah, she said. It's his name on the reservation, but it's my card. Now I was pissed. He'd manipulated the hotel staff. Lied about her identity. Deactivated her room key. Humiliated her. Abandoned her. And all while she was footing the bill. I looked at my coworker. He looked at me, no words were needed. We were thinking the exact same thing. This wasn't just a woman having a bad night. This was a woman who'd been played hard. But if she was the one paying? Oh, we had options. I sat with her in the quiet hum of the lobby, the night wrapping around us like a heavy blanket. She looked so small, folded into that plush chair, gripping the bottle of water like it was her last anchor to reality. Her mascara had streaked, her hair was slightly frizzed from the walk, but she held a grace that somehow hadn't left her like she was trying to remember who she was before tonight broke her. I cleared my throat gently. So, just to be totally sure you're the one paying for the room? She nodded again, brushing a tear from her cheek. She had more rights to the room than he did. Yeah, it's his name on the booking, but it's my card on file. He didn't have a working one, so I used mine when we checked in. A spark flickered in my mind. If her card was on file and she could prove it, then legally she wasn't just a guest. She was the financial holder. If you can verify with photo ID and show me proof like the last 4 digits or something, we could do something about this. You could remove his access, make him the one who's locked out. I leaned forward, keeping my tone casual, supportive. I'll need to confirm it's your card, if that's okay, hotel policy. You paid for his luxury weekend while he mocked you in public. Still the version of herself that had loved and trusted him. You don't owe him grace right now, you owe yourself some peace. Biggest room, spa bathtub, view of the skyline. Full access to all the amenities on us. I'll even have champagne and strawberries sent up if you want. She blinked. Like what? I smiled just enough to give her hope. And, I added, lowering my voice a bit, if we upgrade you to a new room, something better, something far away from him, that would count as a room transfer. She tapped on the account info and showed me the full card number. The last 4 matched perfectly. I don't know. I don't want to cause a scene. Meaning, by policy, his current room would need to be vacated immediately. If he doesn't comply, we call security or the police. He had been watching from afar, reading the mood, and clearly had the same fire in him I did. We moved the entire reservation over to a new room, our premium suite, and locked the old one behind administrative access. She shouldn't have to face that jerk again. Well, if you are the one paying and you're the card holder, you can actually request the room for yourself. Her eyes widened. I can kick him out? She took them, clutching them close to her chest like they were a golden ticket out of a nightmare. Technically? Yes. She sat up straighter, the wheels in her head clearly turning. He already did, I said gently. You walked barefoot across downtown because of him. She hesitated. Her hand hovered near her phone, still unsure. Then I sweetened the deal. If you do this, I'll upgrade you to the nicest suite we have. That got a small, exhausted laugh out of her. I don't want champagne, she murmured. I just want to sleep. Then sleep in the best bed this place has, I said. She looked down at her phone, opened her banking app, and after a moment turned the screen toward me. There it was, her face on the profile, her name matching the one on the reservation, and a clearly listed charge from our hotel. That was all I needed. Perfect, I said. Give me 5 minutes. I headed back to the desk, my coworker already pulling up the back-end system. She's in, I said with a grin. Let's get her the keys. Before I could ask, my coworker was already grabbing a luggage cart and the master keys. I'll go up and grab her stuff, he said. She gave us a faint smile as he approached. Thank you. It's the navy suitcase in the gray duffel. I didn't unpack yet. Even better, he said with a wink. Be back in 10. I handed her the key cards, neatly tucked in a branded envelope, and gave her directions to her new room on the top floor. As she stepped into the elevator barefoot, still shaken, but a little straighter in posture, I felt a surge of satisfaction that I rarely got from this job. She wasn't just getting a room. She was getting her power back, and he was about to find out what it felt like to be on the wrong side of locked doors. The clock had barely ticked 5 minutes past her departure when the front desk phone rang shrill, urgent, and angry. I didn't even have to check the caller ID. I knew it was him. Front desk, how can I assist you? I answered calmly, already bracing for the storm. What the hell is going on? He snapped, no pretense of politeness. Why is some guy in my room taking stuff? He said she sent him. I didn't flinch. Sir, I'm happy to clarify. The individual you're referring to is a hotel staff member. He is retrieving the belongings of the guest listed as the paying party on the reservation, per her request. Then a scoff. It belongs to the woman you previously requested be removed from the reservation. As such, your room no longer has an active method of payment. There was a beat of silence. What do you mean she's the paying party? The reservation's under my name. Yes, but the credit card on file, the one that has been charged for your stay, does not belong to you. After that, we will be forced to involve law enforcement. You can't just let her screw me over like this. This is harassment. I'm a guest. I demand to speak to your manager right now. I'm going to have all of you fired. You hear me? Fired. He lost it. His voice went from annoyed to volcanic in seconds. Glanced at my coworker who was returning from upstairs with the woman's luggage on a bell cart and a smirk that said, "You re-not gone?" Not believe what I just walked into, and calmly called the non-emergency police line. I wasn't giving him another opportunity to scream at me, but I just ignored him and told him it wasn't his to take. His friends were like, "Bro, chill. Just talk to the desk." My coworker relayed that the guy had started yelling the moment he entered the room, demanding to know what was happening, barking orders like he was the king of the suite. You're joking. This is insane. She can't just do that. I'm in the room. I checked in. The room is hers and she has chosen to take her name and payment off this booking entirely. One of the friends. I waited until he stopped to catch his breath. Then, without missing a beat, I replied coolly, "Sir, you have 10 minutes to either provide a valid form of payment for the room or vacate the premises." He sputtered. We just found out there's no card on the room. If I give you mine, can we just cover it and be done? Are you serious? No, sir. The guest on file is the card holder. That is no longer you. You have 9 minutes. We have an individual in a guest room who has no payment on file and is refusing to vacate. He's been verbally aggressive over the phone. We'd like assistance with a peaceful eviction. The moment the knock came and the cops announced themselves, the suite went dead silent. He hung up. I briefed them, showed the digital records, and explained that the woman, the card holder, had moved to a different room, and the remaining occupants had no right to the original suite. The same guy who laughed with his buddies just hours earlier looked like a kid caught cheating on a test. That's not just a screw-up. That's a violation of our guest policy and her trust. The room is no longer available to you. You have 4 minutes left. Fast. Their laughter was gone, replaced by frustrated silence and the occasional dirty look cast his way. I took a breath. Hi, this is the front desk at hotel name. The dispatcher assured us an officer would be on the way. Meanwhile, the phone rang twice more each time. I let it go to voicemail. He tried to snatch the luggage cart from me, my coworker said, shaking his head, and talk they did. About 5 minutes after the call ended, a new number rang in. Hey, the voice said, trying to sound calmer than the panic underneath. I paused, let the silence stretch just enough to make it awkward. Unfortunately, we've been advised by the cardholder that she does not consent to further charges on this reservation. A sigh from the other end. Man, come on.
He screwed up, yeah, but don't punish the rest of us.
I softened my tone just slightly, just enough to show I wasn't being cruel but firm. He lied to hotel staff, manipulated access to a guest's belongings, and abandoned her in the city.
He muttered a half-hearted whatever and hung up. I didn't mind.
This wasn't just about hotel policy anymore. This was about principle. Sure enough, just as our countdown hit 0, the police arrived, 2 officers, calm and professional. The officers nodded, and we headed upstairs together. The mood shifted the second we stepped into the hallway. You could hear them through the door yelling, pacing, throwing around blame. Then the door cracked open. The ex-boyfriend stood there, pale and sweaty, trying to plaster on some sort of smile. The officers were direct. You've been asked to leave by hotel staff. You no longer have a reservation. You can either leave peacefully or be removed. His friends started to pack. As for him, he tried once more to talk to me directly, eyes pleading, words stumbling. But the officer cut him off. Sir, address us only. Eventually, he left last, dragging 2 overpacked bags behind him, still muttering under his breath about how unfair it all was. I don't even get a cart, he complained, loud enough for everyone to hear. His friends just kept walking. And I held the door open with a professional smile and watched Karma roll out right behind them. When the officers stepped into the lobby, it was like someone flipped a switch. Calm, quiet authority walked in wearing navy blue. I handed over the digital reservation log, the cardholder verification, and a brief rundown of the situation. They didn't even blink. After everything she'd gone through, this moment wasn't just a protocol. It was payback. From behind the door, we could hear movement, low voices, footsteps, a drawer slamming shut. They knew something was coming. They just didn't expect us. We'll escort you up, one of them said. Let's make this quick. I grabbed the master key and followed the officers to the elevator, my heart pounding not from nerves but from a building sense of justice. The elevator dinged open on the guest floor, and we walked down the long hallway toward the suite. Pale, stunned, and visibly trying to keep his voice from cracking. One officer knocked firmly. Police, open up. Silence. Then the slow creak of the door. He opened it, and the air practically got sucked out of the room. You have no payment on file. You are required to vacate the premises. His buddies hovered in the background, bags half-zipped, looking more annoyed than surprised. The man who'd earlier walked in like he owned the building now looked like a ghost. Hi? We're here to assist hotel staff, one of the officers said. Matter of fact. Your reservation has been voided. He tried to play it cool, but it was like watching a man slowly realize he's drowning. Come on, there's gotta be some mistake. I booked this. I checked in. He started stuffing clothes into a duffel bag, knocking things over in his haste. His friends followed suit, some mumbling curses under their breath, a few not even looking at him. And the cardholder canceled the authorization. You're trespassing now. Pack up your things. I stood silently behind the officers, arms crossed, watching him flounder. Dude, one of them said, glaring at him. I told you this was stupid. Another added, you dragged us into this. Just take the L. It was delicious, seeing the same group that had laughed at her now throwing him under the bus. No more cocky smirks, no more swagger. Just a bunch of rich boys getting kicked out like rowdy kids at a sleepover gone wrong. The ex-boyfriend hesitated, looking like he wanted to argue more, but the officers weren't in the mood. You can leave now or we'll remove you, one said. Your choice. That did it. Within 10 minutes, the room was cleared. No one looked back. That room, once his playground, was now empty, and the only person with keys was the woman he tried to discard. As they filed into the hallway, bags slung over shoulders, one of the guys turned to him. You really couldn't just leave her alone, huh? Another chimed in, I can't believe I flew out for this garbage. The ex didn't respond. He just trudged along like a man who had nothing left to say. At the elevator, he turned to me, tried to muster one last bit of dignity. I don't even get a luggage cart. I raised an eyebrow. Our carts are reserved for paying guests. The elevator doors opened, and the group stepped inside. As they descended, I stood there in that hallway, letting the silence soak in. That's the thing about karma. It doesn't always hit hard or fast. Sometimes, it waits until you've humiliated yourself, burned every bridge, and dragged your friends down with you. Then it hands you your bags and makes you carry them out by hand. By the time I made it back to the lobby, the adrenaline had finally started to wear off. My coworker was already back behind the desk, casually sipping a soda like he hadn't just escorted a grown man's downfall upstairs. She good? I asked. He nodded, a rare soft smile playing on his lips. Yeah, he said. I dropped her bags off, offered the champagne and strawberries like you said. She smiled, said thanks, but just wanted to sleep. Didn't even look at the suite, just said she was glad to be alone. Rest, a place to breathe without someone trying to take something from her. That hit me. All that heartbreak. All that humiliation. She didn't want celebration or revenge porn. She didn't need confetti or a cinematic send-off. She just wanted peace. And for the first time all night she had it. As for him, he wasn't done. The phone rang again, his number. I let it ring. Then again, and again, 3 voicemails back to back. One was him demanding to speak to the real manager. By morning, we had 3 brand new 1-star reviews from suspiciously similar accounts. All vague. All ranting about how corrupt the hotel staff were, how unprofessional and biased and easily manipulated by unstable women. But I kept thinking about her, how small and broken she looked when she walked in, and how silently powerful she was when she walked out. The next was him insisting we violated hotel policy and humiliated a paying guest. The third. I like to think she slept soundly that night, maybe for the first time in weeks. That when she left, she did it on her terms. Head held high, heels back on, walking tall into whatever came next. A pathetic attempt to twist the narrative. She wasn't even my girlfriend. She was stalking me. You people let her set me up. And more importantly, she knew the truth. That mattered more than any petty review could. Right, next came the online barrage. My manager read them, sipped his morning coffee, and calmly flagged each one for removal. Thanks to your help, she didn't just get revenge. She got closure, comfort, and luxury. Meanwhile, her ex walked away with nothing but shame. None of us flinched. None of us felt the need to respond. Because the truth was simple. We'd seen everything we needed to. The day shift came in. The lobby filled with the usual mix of business travelers and vacationing couples. The world moved on. And she walked away heels in hand with her head held high. We never saw her again. No grand thank you note. No dramatic last scene. Just a quiet exit. As for him, he'll remember that hotel. He'll remember being dragged out by the cops in front of his friends. He'll remember the girl he tried to humiliate turning the tables without ever raising her voice. And he'll remember the front desk staff who didn't just follow policy, but stood up for someone who deserved better. Sometimes revenge doesn't come in the form of shouting matches or public takedowns. Sometimes it's a luxury suite, a locked door, and the quiet dignity of a woman who realized her worth just in time. Recap how this woman went from being humiliated and stranded to reclaiming control with class and dignity. He thought he could crush her spirit in front of his boys. But all he did was show her who he really was.